Raditz and Nappa are two villains whose treatment amongst the fanbase tends to be with discussions of missed potential, or them being overlooked compared to more overarching villains. Despite that, I'd say both of them fit excellently with Toriyama's theme exploration in the Saiyan Arc, and have aspects of characterisation some may not have considered. Though the escalation of power is something all Dragon Ball fans are aware of in its villains, the three Saiyans opposing the Dragon Team in the Saiyan Arc also escalate levels of selfishness integral to Saiyan ideology, in correlation to the battle power escalation. We see this with Raditz when analysing his motivation on coming to Earth compared to information he soon reveals. He didn't seem surprised on Goku's battle power not being near his, and it's not as though recruiting his brother would really help Nappa or Vegeta in their mission. It's through this that we come to realise Raditz's travel to Earth was due to him valuing family bonds, even through the more twisted lens of them participating in destroying other civilizations. We further see this as one of the reasons he brings up as a reason for the Saiyan brothers to stick together, with an emotional appeal to Goku in their parents having perished. Yes, there is the information revealed in Kakarot of him trying to recruit his brother to save face, but even then, the original manga provides a more familial reason. By comparison, Nappa is less merciful on those outside his circle, in having no desire to persuade a traitor like Kakaroto to join them, but is shown to be far more caring towards allies inferior to himself than Vegeta is, with his first thought with the Dragon Balls being to revive Raditz, or his shock in Vegeta executing the Saibai Man. It's when combining this with Vegeta's ideals of discarding those useless to himself, and finding no issue in doing the same to family, in line with Saiyan ideals, that we see the difference in mindset between the super elite and those below them. On the subject of classes, this also ties into the arc's narrative, and the series' overarching idea that the effort put into tapping into one's potential is far more important than the dormant power itself. Raditz acts as a display of this, with his class being a contentious topic. Some sources cite him as being in the same class as Nappa, which lines up with some of his more arrogant boasts in the manga, while others cite him as being a low class, or the absolute bottom of it, which lines up more with how Vegeta treat him. Leaving aside that what Toriyama says has more weight than what's said by someone at Bird Studios, Raditz being a mid-class warrior like Nappa lines up more with not only more modern material, but the events of the manga and themes of the arc. Raditz is clearly far from the lowest key an adult Saiyan can display, with how he wasn't surprised at Goku being several times weaker than him. And, as simple of a scale as the arc's threat and different ideologies going from low class to elite and then super elite could be, Raditz being designated as a high class at birth despite lagging far behind Nappa helps show the importance of allowing someone to fulfill their potential, which Raditz wasn't capable of when having to keep up on missions with one far more powerful and one far more experienced than he. This also shows in him still retaining the tail weakness that a far weaker Goku had overcome with practice, as had Raditz's superiors. That brings up the question some have on how Goku was sure Raditz wouldn't have strengthened his tail, and the answer is he didn't necessarily, but a gamble was better than rushing into certain death. It would be an educated guess, however, when considering Raditz's reliance on technology, such as scouters, even compared to his peers, rather than cultivating himself internally. As for the confusion on whether Nappa was an elite or mid-class, they are simply synonyms of each other. If the Saiyan social ranks are low, elite and super elite, then the elites, like Nappa, are quite literally the middle class, which explains Toriyama's reference to the Vegeta family as the only true elites, and Vegeta's emphasis on being the super elite. This makes even more sense when comparing it to most of our world's countries' middle class, which are closer in income and culture to the upper class than the working class, rather than being the true median. On the subject of Nappa, his mindset also ties into the difference between potential and tapping into it, as he ain't the sharpest tool in the shed, when compared to far less experienced fighters. With how he performed against Goku after his Shoki became more balanced in calming himself, Perhaps he could have been stronger than his opponent from the start if having lived with a mindset closer to Goku. But being the type to rush in with little battle intelligence beyond beat up weaker opponent doomed him, as did his need to inflict carnage upon those weaker than him. That led to a fatal error as opposed to Raditz being more capable of reading a situation due to not being as reliant on brute force in the problem. There's then the subject of missed potential in Raditz not playing a role in the narrative after his death, despite being Goku's brother, other than as a benchmark for other characters. And that's kind of the point when considering the themes of the arc. What if scenarios that give Raditz some shine are good, and it's easy to speculate how he could represent the middle ground in personality between Goku and Vegeta, if redeemed. But citing it as a missed opportunity for the manga misses the point of him, in much the same way material after Bardock's debut has transformed him from the tragic tale of a nobody who merely found the right opportunity to grow stronger, before his efforts of resistance were made meaningless, to someone super special purely due to popularity and who his son is. And it's not as though seeing the middle ground between Goku and Vegeta's personalities is needed when fusion exists. Raditz not amounting to more after Piccolo ends his role in the story highlights that Goku's success was due to who he is, rather than who his family is. And given Raditz the path for redemption would have detracted from what makes Goku stand out, and the redemption of a more established and nuanced character in the arc. In fact, Raditz's lack of redemption also serves his other narrative purpose in representing how Goku could be if having not injured his head, with more subtlety than a later similar case in the films. These help make Raditz a tragic character to some extent, in showing the road Goku could have walked, while Goku shows the path that might have been for him. All that said, despite not being as complex or well characterized as some more relevant films in the franchise, Raditz and Nappa work perfectly within the narrative of the Saiyan Arc to make it one of, if not the, most thematically clear and consistent arcs in the entire manga. Thank you for having watched all the video. On the subject of the Saiyan arc, there's this video on how it uses Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan to explore a famous psychological concept. On the subject of Raditz, or the lack of him, there'll be a video in the future, or here if you're from it or can see it like his dad, part of my series of what ifs.